You know the story of David and Goliath, right? How the young David stepped up and defeated this colossal giant with God's help. But there's more to Goliath's story. There are some mysteries about his family, especially his 5 other giant brothers, that you've probably never heard about. Don't worry, we're not keeping you in the dark. This video is all about spilling the beans on these 5 giants. And get this, you might be surprised to find out that Goliath had not 1, not 2, but 5 brothers who were mentioned in the scriptures. They are known as the Rephaim Giants, or sometimes called the Rehaite Giants. In this video, you'll learn about where they came from, what they looked like, and more juicy details about these giants. Goliath was first mentioned in the scriptures when he dared to challenge the Israelite army to a big battle. He was from Gath and was 10 feet tall with a breadth of 6.5 feet. And besides being huge, he was like a walking statue, covered head to toe in bronze gear. He had a bronze helmet, a 5,000 shekel coat of scale armor, bronze greaves on his legs, and a bronze javelin slung on his back. And if that's not enough bronze for you, his spear was like a weaver's rod with an iron point weighing a whopping 600 shekels. 1 Samuel 17:4-7 gives a picture of what he looked like. Goliath led his troops into battle against the Israelites. He challenged the Israelites to send their best fighter to take him on. He had a deal in mind. If their champion won, the Israelites would have to serve the Philistines. But if their champion lost, the tables would turn, and the Philistines would become the servants of Israel. This big giant kept on with his arrogance and threats for 40 days until a young tiny boy named David showed up. Now David was a pretty brave guy, armed with just a slingshot and a stone. And you know what? He took down this 9-foot-tall giant with a single shot, putting an end to his intimidation. But here's where it gets interesting. After David's amazing victory, Goliath's brothers weren't too happy about it. They were out for revenge once they heard about their brother's defeat. They tried all sorts of ways to take David down, even fighting battles against him. The Philistines just wouldn't give Israel a break during the reign of Saul and even David. This might have something to do with the fact that Goliath, the giant we were talking about, was a Philistine. Every other giant who came against Israel had some connection to Goliath one way or another. This wasn't the first time Israel had faced giants. The Canaanites were like a mix of giant races, standing at a jaw-dropping 10 to 15 feet tall and measuring 6.5 feet in width. The Israelites had to deal with these giants. But guess what? They managed to defeat them before taking over Canaan as their own land. King Og of Bashan was one of the giants they had to defeat. He was about 15 feet tall. He was so big that he needed an iron bed specially made for him to fit. Deuteronomy 3:11. For only Og king of Bashan remained of the remnant of giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. Is it not Rabbath of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. King Og of Bashan, the leader of the giants, took on the Israelites as they made their way to the promised land. He ruled over 60 fortified cities, but when Israel defeated him, they not only captured all 60 cities, but also wiped out this giant group called the Rephaim. However, some of these giants managed to escape the whole wipeout thing during the time of Moses and Joshua. Some fled to places like Philistia, Mesopotamia, and neighboring lands. Can you believe it? Others even went to Africa. So, this whole giant situation was way more widespread than we thought. They weren't just limited to Canaan, they were all over the place, from Asia to America. In 2 Samuel 21:15, 22, and 1 Chronicles 20:4-8, there's a story about David and his fearless army taking on these formidable giants. As the battle raged on, David got worn out, but his loyal warriors fought with amazing strength. They were so concerned about David that they said, "David, you're too important to risk in this battle." In 2 Samuel 21:17, it says that Abishai came to David's aid, took out one of the giants, and the men told David, "You're not going back out there, or you'll put out the light of Israel." The giants' defeats opened the door for Israel to claim all kinds of land, from Bashan to Canaan and beyond. And since giantism doesn't seem to be a one-time thing, these giants likely had more giants, and that's how their tribes kept growing. Now, let's dive into details about Goliath's 5 giant brothers. Lami is the name of Goliath's first brother. He was a giant, just like Goliath, and he wielded a massive spear like the size of a weaver's beam. That's some heavy-duty weaponry right there. Some people estimate that Lami was about 10 feet tall. You will find that 1 Chronicles 20:5. And there was again war with the Philistines, and Elhanan, the son of Jair, struck down Lami, the brother of Goliath the Gittite, the shaft of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. Goliath's second brother, Ishbi-Benob, was quite the character too. In a passage from 2 Samuel 21:16, it's mentioned that the weight of his spear was a whopping 300 shekels of brass. That's like carrying around 15 to 24 pounds of spear. And guess what? His goal was to take down David, and he even got himself a new sword to carry out the job. He was part of the same giant race as Goliath. David faced off against Ishbi-Benob in a battle against another giant, but David was pretty tired at the time. He needed help from his nephew, who eventually took down this formidable giant. Given the size of his weapon and his giant status, Ishbi-Benob was probably around 9 to 10 feet tall, if not even taller. Moving on to the third giant, Sippai, who is mentioned in 1 Chronicles 20:4. He was apparently connected to Goliath since they both came from the same place and were fighting against the people of God. He was likely around 9 to 10 feet tall, just like Goliath. The fourth one was not given a name. He's just called a man in 1 Chronicles 20:6-7. He was a real giant, and he had an unusual feature. He had 24 fingers and toes, 6 on each hand and 6 on each foot. Imagine that. He was also the son of a giant. But when he challenged Israel, Jonathan, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother, took him down. There's another Goliath in the mix, and he is from the same giant clan as the famous Goliath we all know. This Goliath was no different when it came to wielding giant spears in battles and towering over others at about 10 feet tall. However, it's important to clarify that this Goliath was from Gittah, not Gath, as the Bible mentions for the Goliath that David took on. And guess what? It wasn't David who took down this Goliath, it was someone else entirely. Now let's tackle the big question. Why did these giants seem so hell-bent on war and extreme violence? Why didn't they use their incredible strength for positive purposes? It's baffling. It's like every time giants come up in the Bible, they're all about intimidation and violence. Take Goliath, for example. He just couldn't get enough of war. He showed up every morning and evening for 40 days, teasing the Israelites and challenging them to a duel. He had a real appetite for battle, camping around that area for 40 days. This trait might be traced back to their origins, with the first mention of giants in the Bible referring to the offspring of fallen angels and human women. While it's unclear if any of these giants physically survived the flood, the giant lineage might have continued through one of Noah's sons. There's a belief that Ham, one of Noah's sons, married a wife from the giant tribe, and some of their children turned out to be giants. This could explain why giants keep popping up in various civilizations, possibly through Ham's descendants. Now to the most fascinating part. Those who took down these giants weren't giants themselves. Nope, they were regular people. But they had some extraordinary strength and, more importantly, God's support. These giants' goal wasn't to harm someone like David, who was said to be a man after God's own heart, but to wipe out the entire Israel. This shows that winning a battle isn't just about physical might. It often comes down to divine assistance, and that's exactly what David and the others had on their side. So, there you have it, the tale of Goliath and his giant family. Feel free to share your thoughts on this intriguing topic in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today. Remember that faith is a light that guides us through life's darkest moments. If you found this video inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more enlightening content. Keep walking in faith, and we'll see you in the next video. Until then, may God's blessings shine upon you.